NEET basically focuses on most questions that generally comes, which are kind of statement basis or fact based questions. But I actually focuses mostly on practical. So, for example, radiology consists only of 80 pages. Then I decided okay to finish radio in 2 days. That is how we made an entire schedule for the upcoming 4 months. So, from June, I had an idea classes that you join. Because what happens is when you actually go to an MCQ part and read the question, so and so, what amount of toxicity level of glucogen is there, or something like that. Just make mnemonics like this to help yourself because the amount of information that is given in Pulse is vast. It is huge. Once you are done with your entire reading, there are enzyme names, there are biomarkers, there are
So, can you tell us a bit about yourself and a bit about your background and when you started preparing for INICT? And did you join any clinic while you were preparing, or did you just solely focus on the preparation?
okay, so yeah, my introduction already people know. So for the thing of if I joined or not, I did not join any clinic. I studied for around 7 to 8 months for my NEET exam, and for the INI exam, I did not study anything new. All of the information that was there was the same. That was for the NEET exam. Nothing is new anyway in INICT. What is different is just the type of questions that are being asked. So NEET basically focuses on most questions that generally comes, which are kind of statement basis or fact based questions. But INI actually focuses mostly on practical questions or patient questions, clinical scenario questions. So your concept and your basics need to be very, very strong to crack the INI syllabus. So both of the exams are a little bit different that way. So I did not do anything new for the INI exam. All of that, what was there in my NEET preparation knowledge was what helped me navigate this exam also.
So, what was your biggest motivation while you were pursuing for INICT exam?
So my biggest motivation, to be very honest, was that I just wanted to have like an upper edge in whatever in any one of the field of dentistry. So it was like I have multiple skills, but I wanted to sharpen one skill like a sword. Like anything, any kind of scenario, any kind of case that comes to me regarding to that, I should be able to do it. And also, since I belong to a metro city of Mumbai, so here more awareness is being created. Patients are becoming more educated. They are themselves asking for specialists. There are many clinics where the patients come and they ask that, are you a specialist? Are you one, or are you going to call someone else to do my treatment? So that gave me a thinking that even I should try to be a specialist so that patients can trust and believe me more. So yeah, that was my biggest motivation.
So, how did you structure your study schedule and did you follow any specific time management strategy?
Okay, so this is like very important. So first of all, you have to decide that how many months are left till the INI or the NEET exam that is being held. So after that, once you decide how many amount of months are left, you need to then strategize into what kinds of subjects are more difficult or weaker for you. And then you have to give specific amount of days to each subject. So what I did is in my initial time when I started preparing in June, I laid down all my pulse together. It was a long line. And then what I did is from each pulse, I decided how many amount of pages a subject consists of. So, for example, radio is very small in pulse. It is around 80 pages or so. And oral pathology is very, very large. So, oral pathology is around 200 or 212 pages as far. So, I calculated and I wrote down in a page, oral pathology consists of 250 pages or radio consists of these many pages. So, that is why I had an entire idea how many pages of each subject consists of. Then I decided that what maximum I can do in a day. So, by some trial and error methods, I figured out that I could do at least 40 to 45 pages in a day nicely. That includes doing the MCQs, doing the theory, doing the synopsis part of it, marking the questions, making notes, everything related to that 40 pages. So, for example, radiology consists only of 80 pages. Then I decided I need to finish radio in 2 days. That is how I made an entire schedule for the upcoming 4 months. So, from June, I had an idea of what is going to be my life for the next 4 months. And I had to follow that very meticulously because I had no other option. My exam would be either held in February or March. So I had to, put in at least 2 or 3 revisions before my exam comes in. So I tried to followed it very nicely. But still, obviously, it will happen. You are human that you will go into a little bit of backlog and you might not be able to follow it entirely. So always after 4 or 5 days, keep at least one day just to finish off your backlog. So if you're making a schedule of 10 days, keep one extra day just to finish some kind of backlog which you might have accumulated. So yeah, that was how my schedule was. And always kind of make pages wise ka schedule because synopsis, when you do it, is entirely theory. There are no MCQs in synopsis. So synopsis, to learn the synopsis, it takes a more amount of time than it takes to solve MCQs or to read the theory part of the MCQs. So keep synopsis always, keep some more days for synopsis and some amount of lesser time for the MCQs and the chapters. Yeah. So do your time management very nicely. And for me, it was that I need to crack it in this time only. I do not want to give any more time to this. So, like, for my schedule to be followed, I had to skip my cousin's wedding and parties and movies and etc. Like for the 7 months, I was stuck to my table. So that is how it should be. If you have a year or a year and a half, the scenario is different. But if you're planning to crack it in 6 or 7 months, like for if you start from today, June has already been ended almost, like June 6th is there. So June ka 20 days are left, and then you have around 7 months for preparation. So you have to be very vigorous because 7 months is just the perfect amount of time you need. 6 months becomes too less. So you have to start preparing very, very seriously from right now.
What were your primary study materials? And do you genuinely feel like the pulse is enough?
Okay, so this question I'm going to answer in a way that I belong to the test series or series. So I had some amount of material that was already given to me by the classes that consists of some amount of micro teaching lectures and some amount of smart notes that were given for some specific subjects, not for all, but they were good. They were good smart notes. Now coming to if dental pulse is sufficient, I feel that dental pulse is very, very important. So if your dental pulse is extremely thorough, that today I just opened one page and I'll ask you, Anisha, tell me this kind of question. You should answer me that question. That is how your dental pulse study should be. If everything you do is 50-50 or 25-25% only, then you are the jack of everything but the king of none. So dental pulse, read every MCQ, every statement, everything as if it can come in an MCQ. So for example, if you're reading microbiology synopsis, you have to read everything that comes, that you have to imagine that this can come as an MCQ. Maybe they can ask me like, what is this medium also known as? Or they can ask me if this medium comes under enriched medium or diffuse medium or something like that. So everything, each and every line of dental pulse, if you imagine like that it is going to come as an MCQ, then dental pulse is sufficient, I feel. You do not need to go to 10 different books and study material from everywhere. See, if you have a lot of amount of time, then maybe you can dive into other subjects in depth also. But if you don't, then dental pulse is sufficient if you are thorough with it. If you're not thorough with it, then you have to go to multiple sources so that if you miss some points in this book, you might cover it in the next book that you're going to read. So that is what I feel, that dental pulse is sufficient. But with that, you also need to do your classes, whichever classes you take. You need to do the lectures of those classes, some micro teaching lectures, some smart notes or some notes that you have made or received from your seniors or something. So, that will be 90%, it will cover everything. If it won't help you answer a question, it will at least help you eliminate the options of the question.
So as you have explained how to read the pulse, like how pulse is actually sufficient, I'm kind of curious, how many MCQs did you solve per day? And did you have any specific approach while tackling the pulse MCQ questions?
See, I actually did not go MCQ wise. I always did pages wise. Like I said, that from the initial only I had decided, because what happens is some chapters have very little MCQs, maybe only 10-20. Some chapters have more MCQs. So I could not make my schedule MCQ wise because I did not know the total amount of MCQs that are there in all the 20 subjects. It could be 20,000, it could be 2 lakhs. I just didn't know when I was planning my schedule. So what I did is I made it pages wise. So how much ever MCQs were there decided in my day in that schedule, I had to complete that. Be it 200, be it 300, how many pages of that was decided, how many MCQs are there in that page, I used to do that. Did not complicate my schedule a lot. It was just simple. I need to do 40 pages of this on this subject from this to this page number. I stuck it on the wall in front of me and I made a schedule according to that.
So for aspirants struggling with medical subjects, do you have any specific advice or resources that would help them out?
Yeah, so see, medical subjects basically will consist of your general anatomy. It will consist of pharmacology, microbiology, biochemistry, then general pathology, physiology. So what I did is I first read my pulse. Okay, your pulse has to be extremely thorough, be it for medical or be it for dental. Now for general medicine, the pulse is a little bit not good. Matlab, the pulse has information that is spread it out in various chapters. It's there, but when you read pulse, it doesn't give you a link or a flow of why COPD is there or why pneumonia is there or what is the actual etiology of it. It just gives you in a question answer format, which is very difficult for us to understand because we have lost touch of the medical subjects since time. Since 2-3 years, we are doing internship and we have lost touch of the medical subjects. So what I used to do is I took up one concept, be it, for example, COPD or be it some kind of liver cirrhosis or something. And then I went on YouTube and I looked around that disease. I tried to search as much information as I could regarding to its causes, its etiology, its treatment, and any kind of complications. So that kind of thing, I then wrote it in my notes, whatever notes I was going to prepare. So for medicine, I feel that you have to dive in some other things also. Like I did not open my Davidson because it's too huge. I did not have that kind of time to open Davidson and read all the stuff from that. But I did kind of, learn the concept of what was happening or what kind of question was being asked. So be it that you ask from your seniors or you learn from YouTube or you learn from good channels on YouTube. But I used to do that. I never left any kind of question just in the format of this is the question, this is the answer, this is the question, this is the answer. I always went into the concept and the basic part of it. What is good? Why is this the answer? Why is not the other 3 options the answer? And what question would it be that the rest 3 also could also be the answer? So for me, 1 MCQ was equal to actually 4 MCQs because it was never question and answer. It was question and 4 answers, and what other questions could form the other 3 answers. Okay.
What advice would you give to interns who are currently preparing for their INICT preparation?
Okay, so first of all, do not compare yourself to anyone else. Do not compare yourself to someone else who has already been in the journey for 3 months or 2 months. You are where you are. You are in the start line, and you are going to reach the finish line. So stop comparing. See, I used to do that because I used to see other people and they are like, they are already done with 3 subjects. My still that not much is remaining. It gave me an immense amount of stress even before I started my preparation. So first of all, you know your journey, you know your speed. Stick to that. Do not compare yourself with anybody else. Then second, be calm. This journey, it is tiring, it is strenuous. You have to miss out on a lot of things. You have to stick to studies. You have to continuously keep studying. You have to miss on your web series and movies and all that. But all of that is temporary for the longer goal, longer vision that you have. So second is be calm, be positive during your preparation. Keep on remembering why you wanted to do this thing, why you have decided to do MBS, and why you want to complete this journey. Then second is I used to do something. This is manifestation. So I had a big page in front of my study table, and on that I used to write all my goals. So I had written, hey, I have received an AIR of 1. I have gotten into the best college that there is. I have a copy, this, that, whatever your dreams and manifestations are. So just, write that in a page and keep reading when you feel very low. Because that is what actually helped me when I felt like I don't want to study anymore. This is it. This is too much now. Jo hoga, hoga. No. But you have to, be in the race because there are a lot of people in this race and the seats are very less if you want a government college. So somehow you have to keep yourself motivated. Nobody else is going to do that for you. Then second is always solve question papers. So for all the interns or anyone who's starting this journey right now, give so much importance to solving question papers. Don't just read theory and do the synopsis part of it, but also solve the question papers and the subject-wise test series that are there in any of the classes that you join. Because what happens is when you actually go to an MCQ part and read the question, so and so, what amount of toxicity level of lignocaine is there, or something like that. And when you see the options, your brain goes into active reading. Your brain goes into active learning. So your brain actually tries to recollect what you had learned in the theory part of it. If you don't do that, and if you just read the theory part of it, which mistake I made, I gave a little bit less importance to the question papers because at that time I was like, if my theory is weak, what is the point of solving more MCQs? So I should just, learn more and more of my theory part. But that was wrong of me. You should learn theory, but at the same time, you should always solve more amount of papers also. Any amount of question papers while you are sleeping or while you are just, just go through some kind of questions, maybe 10, 15 questions also. That's fine. But you have to do that so that to get your brain ticking. Otherwise, your brain will be in a stagnant mode of only receiving information and never putting anything out there. So that is very important. Solve papers. And next is ask doubts. Ask doubts. Never just circle the question and keep it there. Ask the doubt. Because if you don't actually do that, you will have accumulated a lot amount of things in the last month, which will then, become like a big headache to you because you don't know the answer to that question. And now everybody else is also busy in their preparation so much that nobody's going to give you so much amount of time. You tell me 15 amount of questions, I will tell you all these answers. So always ask doubt as and when they come. Do not pile up your questions. And be it as silly as it is, ask them. That is what I say. Ask them because it might be silly for you, but you might think it is silly, but it might be something very important which even 10 other people don't know and they are also shy to ask it. So ask whatever questions you had, get your doubts cleared nicely. Mnemonics. Make mnemonics for things. See the slide that is there, I think. Can you go back to this mnemonic slide? Yeah. No, so these are some of the mnemonics that I made for myself. So this one that is there, that is people go to play while you read before going to bed. This is for the color coding of the files that are there. So that is pink, gray, purple, white, yellow, red, blue, green, black. So you can make mnemonics about, to everything. The video that she's showing, that is a mnemonic actually on YouTube that I searched for, which was for heart murmurs. So atrial systole has which kind of murmur? Does it have a diastolic murmur or a systolic murmur? Same way for atrial, ventricle systole, like all kind of scenarios, regurgitation, aortic regurgitation, what kind of murmur would be heard. So for that, it was a big list that was given in the general medicine book. So what sometimes people do is they just go through the list and they feel like, isko hum aur we'll read it more 2-3 times and we'll learn it. But actually what happens sometimes is when you are actually attempting the paper, you get confused between the very close options that are given. So what I feel is that you make mnemonics, that are relatable to you, to your mother tongue, or relatable to you to some kind of past experiences that you have, or something like that. But make some mnemonics so that when 2 or 3 options come which are very close and confusing, you exactly know what I had related this to this, and so that is not the answer, that is the answer. So, like for the video, that is the heart murmur, and niche jo 3 boxes are there. Those were the mnemonic that I made myself for me for the generation row of files. So rotary generation. So first box is for the first generation of files, second is for the second and the third generation. So, somehow you just make mnemonics like this to help yourself because the amount of information that is given in Pulse is vast. It is huge. Matlab, once you are done with your entire reading, there are enzyme names, there are biomarkers, there are tumor markers, there are pathology things, there are causes. There is so much information that you are bound to either forget it or you're bound to get confused between options. So whatever stuff you think that this is not conceptual, this is some kind of fact thing, and I'm getting confused between two options like who is the father of modern dentistry, who is the father of just dentistry, or something like that. So make some kind of mnemonic and relate it. That is what I feel will help you in your last revision when you are just going through stuff and you exactly know where people are making mistakes, you get an upper edge. You exactly know what the answer is and you won't make that silly mistake. So make mnemonics and relate things. It's very, very important.
So everybody thinks that revision would either make or break your rank. And no matter even if you study from beginning perfectly, but if you don't revise it well, you might not get a good rank.
Definitely.
So I'm very curious, like how did you approach revising all the subjects in the months leading up to the exam? And how many times you revised each subject?
Okay. So what my strategy was that I'm hooked to one subject. So once I started a subject, I have to know everything that there is to know in that subject, and only then would I move to the next subject. Now, some people might find it that this is such a boring strategy, always, just reading one kind of stuff or one kind of information. I want mix up in my life. So, maybe that works for you, but it didn't work for me because I used to forget things which I used to read in that subject. For example, I'm reading something about COPD and I have a doubt in etiology. So if I am in that subject only for the whole day, I know that I will do etiology even before the day ends. But if you subject, or even in the next day, but if you change your subject on the next day, then what happens is that you might actually forget some kind of points. You were actually planning to study regarding to that subject, but now it has skipped because you skipped to another subject, and then by the time you come back to this subject, you are actually forgotten about it. So I never used to do that. I used to stick with one subject, how much of information I wanted, be it from smart notes, be it from micro teaching lectures, be it from the Pulse or from my own notes. I read everything regarding to that subject, then I moved to the next subject. So what your question was regarding how do I revise now?
Yeah.
So what I did is for the first read, I gave enough ample amount of time to each subject because the first read is the extremely important read. Any kind of read you do it in a shorter time, your first read has to be perfect. Your first read has to cover most amount of things, even if it takes longer time. So I gave around 4 to 5 days per subject in my first read. So if you consider 20 subjects, it's around 100 days. So that is around 3 months. 3 to 3.5 months I took only for my first read. That is if you consider from June, July, August, or mid-September, I was doing my first read only. So now then I hardly had like 3 or 4 months remaining for my exam. But your first read is what will actually help you in doing the second and the third read quicker. If your first read is only weak, then your second read will actually take more time than your first read. And then you will be in a stressed scenario because you will be thinking, now only 3 months are remaining. I still don't know this. I still don't know that. So it's better to always give more time in your first read. So how much of a days you take? Now, one very important point here is that if you, for example, you're starting your today you are starting your preparation and you are starting with the subject of, for example, say dental anatomy. Now, dental anatomy, if you go according to the schedule that I told you, dental anatomy will come after 3.5 months. By the time you are doing other subjects only. So by the time you are doing dental anatomy again after 3.5 months, you will have forgotten 80% of the stuff that was given there. It will be very just like a new read. It won't be like a revision read. So what I suggest you to do is, I didn't do this, but I am going to suggest because this is a mistake I made, that after around 20 days, go back to the subjects that you have read. Give at least one day to just go back to the subjects that you have read, solve maybe questions of it, or solve maybe just read the synopsis of it, or something like that. But go back to it. Do not leave any subjects for more than 20 days because our brain has the capacity of deleting the old stuff, putting in new stuff. So you will actually forget it in 3 months. And this will keep happening for your second read, for your third read. This stuff will keep happening. And by the end it is your exam, you're still like, why don't I know this? This is so basic. So, give ample amount of time for going back to the subjects that you have already done. You're already confident and you're strong in it. So it won't take you much time just to revise it while it is still fresh in your mind. So that was my strategy. And in the last month, just before the exam, my exam was on 18th March. So just before the exam, in the 17 days, I did one day, one subject. So whatever subjects that I felt were a little bit lengthy or difficult, I gave an entire day. And if it was not like that, then I gave, yeah, you can show the schedule of part of it. This was the last month strategy. You can zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So see, for me, pediatric dentistry and biochem was a little bit stronger. Biochem is also a little smaller subject compared to the other dental subjects that are medical subjects that are there. So the subjects that I was little confident in, I clubbed them together And rest of the subjects, which was, I was like, this might take a little bit of more time. I kept it as individual subjects. For example, pharmacology, prosto consists of CD, RPD, FPD. So it's actually like 3 subjects together. Then there is physio, general medicine, oral pathology, ortho. So many questions come from ortho, OPAT. So I kept all of those subjects in the end, so that maximum amount of information I could remember from that. And then, so like that, I kept all my days. So basically, what you do is for your first read, you give 4 to 5 days per subject. Then you go on to 3 to 4 days per subject. Then you go on to 2 days per subject. So you basically decrease the amount of days that are there per revision. And in every revision, when you make a schedule, you should exactly know that what subject are you going to read today, and when are you going to come back to that subject? When are you going to revise that subject again? So it should not be more than 20 days is what I feel.
So everybody, even my professor says that, even the coaching institute that I've joined during my NEET preparation, everybody says that you have to solve the old question papers. So
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, like, did you find it helpful to refer to the previous papers of I9CT? And from where did you find such questions? Did you buy any separate book for previous year papers, or like what was your primary source?
Okay, so for I9CT, I'm going to tell by my personal experience that 2, 3 years ago, there were questions that were coming entirely. The paper was filled of repeat questions. But my time, the question paper was entirely new. It had no repeats. So, you cannot actually judge when if you are in that mindset that the question paper will be of repeats and it's going to be very easy for me. Then when you see the actual question paper, you're going to be really shocked. And even if you know the questions, just because your mindset has formed, I don't know this because I haven't read this, you're going to mess up. So first and foremost is that doing previous year questions is important, but it is not everything. What is everything is your concepts, your basic knowledge that you have regarding to questions and scenarios, your practical knowledge that you have regarding to hernia or say lung disorders or say liver disorders, GIT disorders. So all of that is going to help you crack or navigate the questions. So solve repeat papers, yeah, definitely, but don't make it your soulmate. Your soulmate should be your knowledge that you have. And I didn't buy any book for the repeat papers. I was a student of series, as I said, so it had a red book in the app itself. So that red book consisted of all papers of past PGI, JIPMER, AIMS papers, some subject-wise papers, etc. So I solved the entire red book only for my past papers. But there were some of my friends who bought different books for repeats also. But it doesn't matter much. You just have to complete the question from anywhere, any source possible. That.
Okay. So can you share your strategy for attempting the I9CT exam itself, and how did you manage your time during the test?
Okay, so the I9CT exam that I gave in July, so that consisted of the changed format of 45 minutes and 50 questions. So every time there were 4 sections and it kept changing. I could not go back to the previous section. So for me, it was like 4 different papers, like sir told us. So what I did is within the 45 minutes, I first decided to attempt the questions that I knew, that I'm very sure of. I read the question, okay, I know this answer, I attempted it. Then I skipped whatever questions I didn't know, even if I needed to think about it, I skipped it. Questions which were direct, this to this is the answer, I'm very sure of it, attempt it, go forward. So I did that kind of strategy, and from 45 minutes in around 20 minutes, I attempted around 30 questions or so, which I was very sure of that this is the answer, that there is going to be no chance that this is going to be wrong. So for the next 20 questions or so, which I was not sure of, then I gave my rest amount of time. So now why is this helpful? Because in 45 minutes of time, you have to get to the questions that you know correct. You have to do that. If you are spending more amount of time in a question that you are thinking ki A hai ki B hai, B hai ki C hai, what will happen is that the question that you do know, you will get less time for it, and because of the less time, you will panic, and by panicking, you might mark a wrong answer. So what I did is, if I know the answer, I marked it in the first attempt only, in the first go of the question paper. Then I went back to the questions which I was little bit unsure of, or maybe I haven't heard the concept of those questions. That questions I then went back again. And from that, by some logical thinking or reasoning or something else, from the rest 20 questions in the rest amount of time that I had, that is around 30 minutes or 25 minutes that I had, I attempted around more 14 questions and I left 6 questions. So very important is that, do not be rigid in the mindset that you have to attempt a certain amount of questions. Some of my friends, they went with the mindset ki, kaisa bhi paper ho, I have to leave only 8 questions or I have to leave only 10 questions. I will do tukka, I will do guesswork, I will do something or the else, but I will attempt it. So that is actually wrong. You will lose more marks in negative marking. Because if it's difficult for you, it is difficult for other people also. It is not just it's not just as like only you don't know the answer and the rest of the whole world knows the answer, so you have to attempt it. So use your own judgment, use a little bit of practice that you have of solving papers to get an idea of how many questions you should leave. So from in this I9, what happened is, since the paper was extremely difficult, leaving more amount of questions was actually a beneficial thing than attempting more amount of questions. So see, when you are in the first section, you do not know how the rest 3 sections are going to be. It could be easy, it could be difficult. So you always have that thing ki, leave as less questions as possible in the first section. If I have to leave more questions in the upcoming sections. But what I did is I trusted my gut. If I don't know the answer at all, if it is entirely a guesswork game from the four options, I'm going to leave that question. At the end, I will see how many questions I left, but I cannot attempt that because it has only a 25% chance of getting right, which was a very less percentage to have. So I left those amount of questions that were there, the things that I didn't know exactly. But then, as the paper went through, it became more difficult only. It never became too easy. So by the end of the four sections, I read that I had left around 22 questions. So I was pretty scared about that thing because it was a lot many than I had actually previously thought. I had a notion that maybe I will leave around 10 questions or so, 2 or 3 questions in each part or each section. But then it came out to be 22 questions. So now there was nothing I could do. I could only wait for the result. So luckily, so it happened that my strategy and my scenario was right because I did less negative marking and I attempted more right questions because that is how I went through the entire paper. Whatever I knew, I attempted it first and then I used some kind of logic for the rest questions, which I still didn't know anything. I left it. So it was around 6 questions in the first section, around 6 or 7 in the second, 3 or 4 in the third, and rest in the last section. That's how. So your time management has to be 30 minutes to finish off your entire paper, 30 to 35 minutes to finish off the entire section of 50 questions, and the rest 10 to 12 minutes to just go through all of the questions again, to recheck your answers and to analyze what questions you have left are the correct questions to leave and what you have attempted are the correct ones to attempt. So never just go with guesswork. Every paper is different. Every paper is different. If this paper would have been an entire repeat paper like we were imagining it to be, and if I had left 22 questions, I would be nowhere in this question. I would be nowhere in this scenario. So you have to judge. See, in a repeat question, everybody has solved repeats. Nobody is going to come to the exam just like that. They must have done some amount of preparation only. So even if one question of yours goes wrong there, you jump back 100, 200 ranks, which means a lot because I hardly has 30, 40 seats. So you have to be in that top, 20, 30 only to get the best college that is there, to get the clinical branch that is there. So always take a judgment nicely and do not be rigid to the amount of questions that you need to attempt or need to leave.
Do you believe coaching institutes are necessary for a good rank? And if so, can you discuss the pros and cons of attending such institutes?
Yes, coaching institutes are very, very necessary. I believe that you should join any coaching institute that you feel is good for you. Okay, so like for example, I joined CDs because I wanted to focus on test score. So I took the test series part of CDs. I was not in their entire lecture section part of it. I only took the test series part of it because I thought that theory I will be able to cover, and some amount of small lectures were still there that were given in the series app, even in the test series section of it. So I could get a little bit of knowledge from there. But there are some specific reasons why you should join an institute. First of all is paper solving. So even if you solve Pulse, if you solve any amount of books, you will not actually solve papers. That is 3 hours papers that is there. You won't get that to solve anywhere else except an institute. Be it Meriters, be it series, be it DCMBI or any other classes that is there. So paper solving is very important for your preparation, and that only you can get in an institute. Next is that you always have an idea of where you stand with your competitors. So any student who is serious about giving an exam will give the test series extremely seriously. So when you give a test series and what rank you get from that test series gives a certain amount of idea of where you stand also in the main exam. So in my series, test series, I always used to get a rank of around 150 to 200. And in the final paper also, I got a rank of around 350 in NEET. So it was a little bit here and there, but it still gives you an idea of, overall where will you stand in the total examination. So that will help you only if you have joined an institution. Second is it will help you to make a timetable. So once you are in an institute, you either follow their timetable or you follow their test series timetable. So for me, since it was a test series, I decided that whatever subject that I needed to study, whatever information that there was there in the subject to study, has to be read by me before the test actually occurs. So for me, every test was a mini NEET. It was a mini NEET exam where I had to score my best, try to get under 100 or under 50. So I gave my best for the preparation. So that kind of competitiveness will only come to you when you know that you are actually, in a sea of other aspirants of this exam. If you are preparing only alone in your house, you are reading theory, you will never have that kind of fire inside you that no, you need to, do better than other people to get into the top ranks. So that will definitely help you only with an institute. Next is it will help you in doubt solving. So any kind of institute that is there, the professors and the other aspirants that are there, they will put you in some kind of WhatsApp group or something. So that will help you in doubt solving. So any kind of doubts that is there. Now, if you are reading Pulse or something, and if you have some kind of doubt, obviously you're not going to go to your undergraduate professors to ask them. Nobody of that sort is there that they will free to answer you. So this institute will help you solve the doubts also, which otherwise you are not able to solve. Also, some institutes will guide you properly as to what to mark in controversial questions. So some kind of questions are there which has a different answer in some standard book and a different in another standard book. So in that kind of scenario, what to mark the answer, what should be the better answer, that also institute can help guide you. So taking all of this into consideration, I feel it's best, even if you join just for a test series, but you should join some institute. Solo studying will not, help you reach what you want, your goal.
So a common question that's always running in the back of a mind of every student. Do you think an average student can crack INICT exam?
Yes. I do think an average student can also crack an INCT exam because I myself was an average student only. It was only by sheer hard work and not giving up. See, I'm going to be very honest. My NEET rank was not as I expected. I was expecting somewhere around 100, 150, but my rank came out to be around 350. It came out to be 365. So, I'm from open category, so I could not get a government college, which I dreamt of. I did not want to go to a private college since I couldn't afford it. And also, I always wanted a government college stream only since I've done my undergraduation also from a government college. So after the result came out, I broke down for a couple of days. I was too depressed because I had done a lot of efforts and still it did not match to what I actually thought of. So what I did is after that, my friends and my family motivated me a lot. They said, you already have the knowledge. You also have another chance of attempting the same knowledge in an exam that is just 2 months after. So, after the NEET exam, the INICT exam was just held in 2 months from 18th March and 19th May. The NEET exam, INICT exam was held. So all of them actually motivated me to start studying again. So I cried a lot for 10, 15 days and then I picked myself up and I started studying again. And I gave my whole this time. I read everything that was there. I solved all my past papers, the repeat papers that, like you said, I solved everything because we had high chances of thinking that this time also the paper would be a repeat paper. But unfortunately, it was not a repeat paper, and I actually thank God that it was not a repeat paper because repeat papers means scoring is extremely difficult. Even if you are 1 or 2 questions wrong, your rank drops like hell. So this paper, being a new paper, being a little bit of challenging paper, actually helped bring the students who have worked hard to the front instead of just memorizing and learning and like that. So whatever happens for the good. Ultimately, I feel because if I had gotten a very great rank in NEET, I would not have prepared so much for INICT and would miss an opportunity to go into AIMS also. So ultimately, whatever will happen in your life, it happens for a reason, some mysterious reason which we don't know. God has planned something for us that is better than what we are planning for ourselves. So trust yourself always, whatever happens.
So what are your future plans?
Okay. For the nearby future, I want to either, become obviously a specialist. So I'm deciding about either an endodontist or a prosthodontist. I am still researching about that. What field is better for me, where I live, what is better in that, because I love both fields. So I'm still deciding about that. And in the overall goal, I always had a thing where I was going to do free Fridays. So that is free Fridays is something that I was planning to do in my own clinic when I start my own clinic. That is to help the poor patients get the dental care that they deserve because there are so many patients. I see my maids that are there. I see some peons that are there in my dad's office. All of them need dental care, but nobody of them has the opportunity to actually get good dental care in a scenario that they deserve it. Without waiting in lines and stuff like that. Like when you go to government colleges, obviously you need to wait in lines. You need to have more amount of appointment days. Even if you're tooth staining, they'll give you an appointment of 1 month because it's not their fault. It is how it is. Government colleges are less, patients are more. So the appointment days shift a lot. So what I am planning for the long term is that I want to do something to help those poor people get good quality care, dental care from me, at least from me, whatever, how much I can do for them.
I'm pretty sure you would definitely do it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So to all the students who have this question, so I have a NEET exam coming up in 2025. I have an INICT exam coming up in 2025. So what should be my revision strategy? What should be my preparation strategy? And how should I start? So this question will be perfectly explained by Dr. Kinjal right now. So I'm going to zoom the PPT right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first of all, I am going to imagine that whoever is attending this my webinar is actually starting their preparation. Even if you aren't starting, you have to. This is like a flowchart that I have prepared of how should you start your preparation for NEET or INICT. So first of all, define the amount of time you have left. So for example, if you're starting from June this month, then from July, August, September, count how many amount of months you are left and count it only till January. Do not count February or March or something because you never know when the exam is going to be held. In my time, the NEET exam was first preponed to February 9th, and then it was again postponed, and there was a lot of game that was happening. So always, prepare your schedule only till January. After January, everything that you do is just a revision and paper solving part. Okay. So first is that you define the time that is left with you. Now, second is, like I said, you go through all of the subjects and you decide which subjects are small and which subjects are big. So small and big subjects is very important. Some subjects like oral pathology are very big and radio is very small. Even biochem is comparatively smaller to general medicine. So you just make two columns of small subjects and big subjects, and you kind of just write it down. Which subjects you think are small, which will take lesser time, and big, which will take more time. And then you decide that which subjects that you are strong in or are weak in. So I think so. Most probably it will happen so that dental subjects most people will be strong in, and medical subjects they will be weak in. So you need to give more amount of time to the medical subjects and a little bit lesser amount of time to the dental subjects comparatively, because you still will be able to cover up the entire syllabus in a shorter amount of time for the dental subjects. So decide what subjects you are strong or weak in. So for me in the medical stronger for the general anatomy part of it, because I had even in my UG days I had made very good notes for general anatomy. So it kind of helped me for the branches classification, for the flow chart of the nerve supplies of various organs, parotid gland, etc., the triangles. So I had very good notes that helped me, so I could complete general anatomy in lesser amount of time. So you have to decide that what kind of notes you already have previously, which you do not need to spend time to make it. Okay, and then you have to decide that what strong or weak subjects that you are. After I explain the whole thing, if you want, you can also take a screenshot of this thing to help you further. Then next is you
Share
give
this
the
images also in the WhatsApp group. We'll share this images
Okay, yeah, great. So then next is once you have decided that how small or big the subject is, you have decided which subjects you are strong or weak in. Now you have to give the number of days to the subjects. So first of all, you need to decide that till what month you have to do your first read. Then from what month to what month you will do your second read. So for example, if you ask me, you should start your reads. If you start your read from June, then June, July, August, around in 3 months or August or September mid, you should be done with your first read. You should be. Okay, then afterwards for another 2 months or 2.5 months, you should do your second read. So like that, you have to divide days to each subject that you are going to give. This will give you an overview of your next 4 to 5 months till the exam date of how much time you can give to each subject. You cannot be like in a ISME, I'm still weak, I should give more 2 days to the subject or more 3 days. You should have an idea that if you do this, you are going to miss out on some other subject also. So while you strategize, while you make a schedule, always decide how many amount of days that you can give to a subject to complete in a specific amount of time. And this scenario should include your Pulse ka read. It should include any other book that you are planning to read if you have the time. If you do not have, do not panic. Pulse is enough if you do each and every sentence from it. It is enough. It is not like that you need to dive in another 10 different books and 10 different subjects to get the entire knowledge of it. Because Pulse will help you a lot. And secondly, your classes, the test series will also help you a lot. So most of the questions that are there, that is from the Pulse theory, that is from the surrounding from the Pulse ke MCQs only. Maybe it might not be that MCQ, it might be some other MCQ, but related to the same options. So like I said, for you, one MCQ should not be one, it should be 4 MCQs. Okay, so that is very important. Then next is whatever notes that you have made for yourself or notes that have been provided to you by your classes, include time for that also. Include time for any kind of lectures that you're going to see and tests on. So the number of days that you're going to allot to each subject should include all of these things. At the end of it, you should not be like, yeah, I have only done Pulse. I have not done anything else. I have not solved any papers. I have not solved any lectures or seen anything else. So, that will actually put you in a more panic state later on. So give the number of days, allot the number of days. From the days also make a day-wise schedule. That is, when you wake up in the morning from 7 o'clock, you have to make a schedule from 7:30 to 9:30. What are you going to do? Then from 9:30 to maybe 10 o'clock, you're going to have your breakfast. Then from 10 to 12:30, you're going to do something else. So make a day-wise schedule, properly assigning enough amount of time to everything that you want to do, achieve in that day. Be it a bit of break, you talk to some other friend, you maybe watch a little bit of web series, 20 minutes, some episode you are seeing, something or the else, but you make a schedule so that you know that you are on time. You should not get panicked in the end. I decided so much, but I could not do anything, or maybe I just could do 20% of it. So by this, you actually will have an idea of how, you should go about your day. So I always used to do that. I first made a month-wise schedule, the entire year-wise schedule that was for 7 months. Then I made a month-wise schedule that for this month, I need to cover this much, this much. Then I made a day-wise schedule. That is for this today, for June 6th, what all do I need to cover? I wrote that in my book, and as in when I covered it, I gave a tick mark. So I felt satisfied that I am moving forward in my life. I'm doing something that I'm supposed to. Like that. So always make your schedule or make it pages wise. Do not do it chapter wise, because some chapters are very less. I have seen so many of my colleagues who make schedules chapter wise. That is, today we'll do 4 chapters, tomorrow we'll do 4 chapters, but you do not know what the size of that chapter is. So for example, if the chapter is too small for you, you might have done 4 chapters. But for the day that is tomorrow, when you are again decided to do 4 chapters, what might happen is some chapter size would be too big. And now you are stuck because you had decided 4 chapters, but your 90% of your time went to only 1 chapter of solving because it was too big. Okay, so always what I think is go pages wise, do not go chapter wise. And always give more time to reading the synopsis, When you come to the synopsis ka pages, give more time to reading that because there are no MCQs in that synopsis. You have to learn each and every point that is given there in the synopsis. You have to learn it as an MCQ. It will take more time than solving MCQs. So give more days or more time to read synopsis. If you are giving around 2 or 3 hours to do 2 chapters, then give 3 to 4 to 5 hours to just read the synopsis if the synopsis consists of 15-20 pages or so. Okay. Next is you mark, highlight, and make notes very smartly. Very smartly. Do not mark everything that you feel is this is also important. This is also important. You do not have to mark important stuff. You have to mark stuff that you do not know. Stuff that you need to come back to. Then there might be a lot of important stuff, but since you are also studying since 5 years, there might be a lot of stuff that you already know. It's given in the theory, but you already know. Do not mark that stuff. Only mark the stuff that you feel that I should read this back, I should revise this back. Only then will I be able to recall this. Mark that stuff. So it is very, very important that you do this smartly. Because if you have marked everything in your second read, in your third read, in your last month revision, you are going to be stuck because there is, the same amount of information that you need to read again. You do not have the time to do that. You have the time to read very limited, very important information only, which you think is either volatile or you think is, maybe this is something confusing or some kind of concept that I keep reading, but I don't get it. So only that amount of stuff you have to read in your last minute revision. You cannot read the entire pulse. It is not humanly possible to do that. Okay. Then next is never leave a subject for more than 20 days. Like I said, that always keep a day to come back to the subject. Otherwise, you will forget the information that was given. Then next is when you are reading, make mnemonics. Do not keep that information. Okay, I will see later on what is going to happen with this. No, always make mnemonics because mnemonics will help you. You can make them yourself or you can make it with the help of the net. There is a lot of websites that actually give ready-made mnemonics of various things, of respiratory things also. I remember, like I said, the murmur mnemonic I found it from YouTube only. So you can do that. But always make mnemonics because there is so much, stuff that you have to remember in NEET that you are bound to forget if you don't make mnemonics. Examples. Then there are types of glands, there are types of cartilages, then there are types of joints that are there, saddle joint, pivot joint, Like there is so many stuff that if you don't make mnemonics or if you don't relate it with other things, you're bound to get confused or forget. So, avoid that with helping yourself from making mnemonics from the first point of the read itself. So by the second read or the third read, you are revising the mnemonics too. And so when the question comes, the mnemonic directly comes in your mind. Ki, this is what I related to this. This is my answer that is going to happen. Then next is you have to test your theoretical knowledge. So whatever theory that you have learned, you have to test it with PBQs or picture-based questions or with your subject-wise test series, whatever is happening in your institution. And after all of this is completed with one subject, you move to the next subject and repeat the whole thing. Okay. So this is how you have to go with the entire process of all 20 subjects covering everything and you'll be good to go. Your exam will be great. Don't worry about that.
Thank you, Dr.
So this is a little trick that I want to tell you guys. So what I did in my time is that I made these kind of 5 groups. So one group is, that is myself, that is Dr. Kinjal Shah. Second is difficult series questions. Third is a group of only classifications. Fourth is a group of NEET MDS notes, which I felt like this is some kind of important. You can also maybe read the lollipop appearance seen in Castleman, this disease. So, and then there is a group of PBQs. So what I did is all of these group consist of only me as a member. No one else is there. And what I did is whatever information that I came across while I was reading. So while I was going through maybe my first read of paleo, I was reading and I came across some modified Whitman flap ka picture or some undisplaced flap ka picture or some kind of suturing ka picture. So what I did is I just clicked the picture and I put it in the PBQ group. So the next time when I wanted to revise, all I had to do was open my PBQ group and revise it. I did not need to find the paleo ka book from all the 20 pulse ka book and open the page from where it is. It is time saving. When you are preparing for such an exam, even 5 minutes is very important. You have to save as much amount of time you can. Okay, so what I did is I, just clicked the picture, I wrote down undisplaced flap and I sent it in the group that I made. So next time when I wanted to search, I searched in the WhatsApp chat, undisplaced flap, and I could see the picture directly. So it gave me the answer in just 3 or 4 seconds, which would have taken at least 4 to 5 minutes while looking in the book. So that is one PBQs. Next is NEET MDS notes. So what I wrote in that is just the very important, very volatile stuff that I thought that might come in the exam, but I need to remember this. So in this, I wrote about all the, for example, if you take ortho, I wrote about the wire gauges that were there, what kind of wire gauges used for what appliance, or some kind of brackets, etc., which I didn't know about. Or if it's about paleo, then I wrote about all the keratinization markers that were there. So for epidermal type, for stratification specific, what kind of markers are present on the basal membrane, in the corneum, all of that. So the things which was volatile to me, I wrote it in this NEET MDS notes ka group. Then there is classification ka group. So what I put in this classification is the most commonly asked classifications that are there. That is, for example, your ANA classification or your Glasgow Coma scale or classifications that consist of periodontics. So the new current AAPD classification that is given. So any kind of classification that was there, I took a picture and I sent it in this group. What will help you now? See, everything is given in Pulse. It is not that I'm looking in the net and searching for other information and putting it here. It is given in the Pulse. 90% information is there, but it is very spread out. It is across 10 different subjects. It is across 15 different chapters. Somewhere or the else, maybe when you are reading one subject and you have read and you have reached the 10th subject, it might so happen that you remember I had read this classification, but you actually don't remember where is it. Which subject is it? What chapter is it in? You don't remember that. So you keep searching for things. Okay, which chapter was it given? Which chapter was it given? You keep panicking and you keep searching, but you're not able to find it, and you waste a lot of time. So this will help you prevent that. Okay, so when you are you pick a click a picture of the classification and send it in the group. You search in your WhatsApp that what is it. In 1 second, you get your answer. So I did that with classifications, and then there is difficult series questions. So I had two phones. I had one phone in which I had logged in my series app, and I had one actual phone which I used to use. So what I did is I clicked pictures of the most difficult questions that I felt which I was getting wrong in again and again, or maybe questions which had densities or methyl methacrylate ka molecular weight or something like that, some kind of porosity big questions which I was going wrong again and again. I clicked pictures of those questions and sent it in this group. So this was my difficult series questions group. And whenever I wanted to revise, I would just go through 10, 15, 20 questions at a time from this group. And I was able to revise all of my difficult questions in one place only, instead of going to the app and then going to the subject and then seeing maybe this, I covered this or I covered that. Because, if some of you are already in series, you already know that it's wonderful, but it's, there is a lot of classification. There is some questions that are given in live exams, some questions in subject-wise tests. So it was a lot of stratification that was there, which was not convenient for me. So I collected all of that data and I put it in one group only. And then the first group that is there, that was just for me to write some kind of things which I had to see maybe today or maybe tomorrow, or just I wanted to write maybe I have to see the biosafety levels, or I have to see the type of trains that are used in general surgery, or maybe I have to see the management of primary bonds or the classification of bonds or the formulas, Parkland formula, etc. So whatever I had to see or something like that, I wrote it there, and at the end of the day, I just used to check, have I covered all my points or not? Have I missed something or something that has to be done tomorrow? Because as I said, there is so much information that you're bound to miss something or the else. And then you will feel like maybe I had read this more nicely, it would have been better. So this is what I did. So this is something that you guys can also try if you're comfortable with it. So this helped me a lot in saving time, in coming back to the revision again and again, because phone is something you are sleeping also, it's in your hand, you are in the washroom, you are eating, your phone is everywhere with you. So, if information, good stuff is there in your phone, you stop wasting time and you actually, it helps in more amount of preparation. So that helps you, yeah. This was just my notes folder that is there. So I made all of my notes in my tablet. So this is all the subject-wise division that there is there. So I just did this to keep myself organized. So all of that consisted of the notes that were there in series. It consisted of the PDFs or the books that I had to refer. But to be very honest, I did not refer too much in detail about any subject. For oral pathology, I referred to some cysts and tumors from Schaefer, which I felt like they have been asked a lot of times and the information given in Pulse is not enough. So only shift to the detailed books when you feel like the questions are being coming a lot, but the information given is too less. So then you can shift to other books to read more about it. Otherwise, what is given in Pulse is enough. It's sufficient time.
So
Okay.
I would request all the students to please drop in their questions. Yeah, so Dr. Tanya is asking, can you share the preparation slide for INICT so that I can take a screenshot? All the photos and whatever has been shared on this PPT slide will be shared in the WhatsApp group. If anybody has any questions, please drop in. How did you do your basic subjects? Dr. NR.
Yeah, like I said, all of my basic subjects I did from Pulse only initially. While reading Pulse, if I felt some kind of concepts are not clearly given here, for example, the markers of hepatitis, it was not clear. So what I did is I started going to YouTube and I searched a lot there. There were so many different channels which will help you there. Since I was not belonging to any lecture classes, my hope was only YouTube, because from there I could at least learn the concept, because I didn't have much time to go through all the lectures that were there. So yeah, for the basic subjects, most important is that you do the concept very nicely, because for basic subjects, your experience won't help you because we aren't more experienced in that part. We had very little words and everything, but the questions asked are very detailed. So pathology questions, biochemistry questions. In biochemistry, it's very important that you make cycles of everything. So there is the urea cycle, there is the Krebs cycle, the HMP shunt, everything that you do, make cycles, highlight stuff that is important, which are the cycle controller, which are the steps that are important, the enzymes that have been asked multiple times, and phosphorylation enzymes, etc. So all of that is very important to learn nicely in the beginning itself. So Yeah, for basics, I didn't do much. I did not go into all of the actual subjects of it. I only did my pulse nicely. And for sub concepts that I didn't know, I referred to YouTube or any other stuff to get my conceptual things strong. That's it.
Ma'am, Dr. Parul is asking, this was INICT, like what was the number of attempt, this exam that you have cracked?
This was my first attempt only.
Khushbu is asking source for previous year questions of INICT. Dr. Khushbu, ma'am has mentioned that she referred to the Red Book. Yeah.
Hello?
Hello. Yeah,
Yeah,
ma'am.
I can hear you.
Yeah. So Dr. Parul is asking, did you do also H Achievers coaching?
Yeah, actually, for Ace Achievers initially, I did not have taken series at that time. But at that time, I was not very serious about my studies. Like I said, we need to sit and study for 12, 14 hours. And in internship, you're not able to do that. So, I had the notes and everything that was given from Ace Achievers, but I did not study at that time very nicely to crack the exam. So I think my tablet shows those notes. So yeah, I had those notes, but I did not refer them much. All I referred was the smart notes that were given from series only, because then it would be a too much amount of information which even my brain couldn't handle. Even if you read, you need to recollect it, you need to remember it. So it is never like that. Too much information is not bad. I'm not going to say that, but also if you read 10 your brain is bound to get confused even if it doesn't want to. So always read more stuff only if that stuff or that question is important. Otherwise, stick to your basics, stick to your actual books and notes. That
Okay. Ma'am, Dr. Udi is asking, how did you do oral path? Because it feels difficult from the pulse.
Yes, oral pathology is very difficult. The synopses that are given in oral pathology are too huge. So the kind of diseases and the triads that are there and all of that. So oral pathology for the first read itself, I had taken around 12 days. So like I said, for the other subjects, I took around 4 or 5 days. For radio, I took only 2 days. Biochem, 3 or 4 days. But for oral pathology, I took 12 days. So that is what I said. You have to decide how big a subject is to decide how many days you can give to that subject. So for oral pathology, I'm going to suggest that you keep you make notes, you make mnemonics, and you go through the stuff again and again. Since my favorite subject was oral pathology only, so I the theory and the what do you say, the histopath of it. That histopath I didn't like too much, but the part of the MCQs that were there, that maybe the light bulb shaped skull belongs to which disease, cleidocranial dysplasia or craniofacial dysplasia, etc. So it was fun for me to do that. And also in oral pathology, it will help you if you have like a study partner. So I had 2 or 3 friends of mine who were very close to me. They always, after we are done with one kind of part of it, for example, I have done cysts or I've done tumors or tongue or something. So what we used to do is we used to ask questions to each other. Okay, tell me, what is the common lesion of common developmental? This, once that question comes again, you have that clear click in your mind. Ki, haan, my friend had also asked me this, and the very 2 simple points is keep revising, make mnemonics, and do Viva. Do Viva maybe with your friends, with your family, or anybody else. But do a question answer session that is live. That will actually help you a lot.
Ma'am, Dr. Parul is asking how many questions you did in INI out of 200.
I left around 21 questions, and I was wrong in 50 questions, and I attempted correct, I think, 130 questions or so. I do not remember the exact number, but it was around this one.
Ma'am, Dr. Udi is asking how many days for subjects like OPATH and Pharma for first read.
Okay, so like I said, for OPAT, you need to give at least 12 to 13 days because it's a huge subject. It's a very, very important subject. Most of questions that are asked are from oral pathology, from ameloblastoma, OKC, etc. And for pharmacology, I wasn't very strong in pharmacology. My pharmac was not good. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to boast. But for your first read, if you want for pharmacology, at least 7 to 8 days you have to give. So just to cover up the important drugs that are asked for the inhibitors part of it, etc. The exceptions, वगैरह. So for OPAT, give around 12 to 14 days, and for Pharma, give around 8 days, 7 to 8 days.
Okay. Ma'am, Dr. Sakshi is asking how many subject-wide tests you have given for a particular subject.
Okay, so for in series app, there was already a section that was given. So for each subject-wise test, there was a PBQ test, which consisted of 50 to 80 so questions. So I gave that test related to the subject, and then I gave the subject-wise test, which also had some chapter-wise distribution. So it maybe had muscles for distribution or kidney or lungs, like that. So basically on that division also I used to give the test. But after completing my entire syllabus, I gave 1 full day just to complete the tests, because tests were also a big part of it, and I had to give some amount of time to that also. So in the morning, I used to do the PPQs, and then later on, I did the subject-wise test.
Ma'am, Dr. Chaitanya is asking, you see the one MCQ has 4 MCQs indirectly. So how to find the other options questions?
Okay, so yeah, so that you have to look in the net only. So for example, like I said, if the question is asking that what is the characteristic feature of say ulcerative colitis or something, and they have given 4 different options. So you just search on the net that what is the characteristic feature of the other options that are given. Like even if you search just the option, you might find some amount of information that is given on the net. So since I did not have any other classes, I refer to the net and to some standard books also where I felt like this is too controversial. Different websites are giving too many different answers. So then I referred back to the standard book, or I asked my friends that what could be the answer. But I always used to look for an answer for the other 3 options also.
Ma'am, and Dr. NR is asking, what about the pharma? How did you prepare for the same?
Yeah, by far I wasn't good to prepare. But I did Sparsh-Gupta mnemonics. That was very important. There are a lot of mnemonics given in Sparsh-Gupta for side effects, for uses, for different things also. So I did Sparsh-Gupta only for the mnemonic part of it, and rest MCQs, etc. I did from my pulse only. But my pharmac, like I said, my planning was a little bit way off. I did not get much time to do pharmac, so my pharmac was a little weak. Luckily, in NEET, not many difficult questions were asked from pharmac also. So, but you have to prepare every subject very nicely. So I feel that just stick to one book. If you're sticking to Pulse, stick to Pulse. Or if you're doing Sparsh-Gupta, do Sparsh-Gupta. Do not do both books. I tried to give a mingle of both books, which actually, was disadvantageous to me because I did not have enough information from either books. So only always stick to any one book that you are deciding for. Any kind of MCQ book that you want to.
Dr. Parul is asking, how did you clear your doubts in series online test series course?
So we are already added in a group that is there in WhatsApp. So I think I was in section 8. So they added us, all of the students of test series were in one group. And I just used to post my question there. And there were 4-5 of us who used to keep discussing on the group. So yeah, from that only I could clear my doubts. And also, sir used to upload doubt solving sections in the app. So if something that was not cleared on the group, then I always used to go to the app and check the answers that were there, given there. So each subject had a PDF which had all the doubt solving questions or the commonly asked questions to sir. So he had made a PDF of all those questions with the answers that were there. And I used to just go through the PDF. Each subject had a PDF for like 12-15 pages or so. So that helped me clear other doubts also.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kinjal, for answering all the questions and explaining so patiently every damn thing. So thank you so much for taking the time out. And I'm pretty sure all the students who have attended this webinar, they would find it very useful.
Thank you.
Dr. Mayuka, you have anything to say?
No, that's all. I think if anybody wants to check out our pages, both of us have websites, you can go through it. If we are done with the questions, we will close the session. If there are any other questions, we can put them up on the WhatsApp. We will directly send them to Dr. Kinjal.
Yeah. So if anybody has any questions, you can send us on Instagram or on the WhatsApp. We will forward the same to Dr. Kinjal and we'll post it as a blog post and you can check it out. And all. Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Dr. Kinjal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Bye guys, all the best.
Thank you for collaborating on this session. This was a wonderful session and I enjoyed working with both of you.
Yes, likewise.